Hello, everyone. We have some breaking news. Prince Andrew has been arrested. He's going to be going to prison for a long, long time. I'm sure they've been searching all his personal emails and all his servers and all his weird shit, all his hard drives, and they probably found lots of creepy shit on all his hard drives. He's going to be going to prison for a long, long time. So, all these left-wing, creepy Democrats, they're all going down. Finally, all the global elites are going down. So let's get into some of these news coverages here and see what's going on.
Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, formerly known as Prince Andrew of the UK, has reportedly been arrested.
Chanley Painter joins us now with the breaking details. Chanley.
Hey, Todd and Carly. So police say they took the brother of King Charles into custody on suspicion of misconduct in public office. Officers reportedly arrived at a royal estate in eastern England earlier this morning to make the arrest of the former prince, who turns 66 years old today. Andrew is in custody, and investigators are carrying out searches at addresses in Berkshire and Norfolk. Police releasing this statement without naming Andrew, saying, quote, "Following a thorough assessment, we have now opened an investigation into this allegation of misconduct in public office." We're still waiting, of course, more details on this breaking story, but this comes as after Andrew was stripped of his royal title over ties to convicted pedophile Jeffrey Epstein, and after Thames Valley Police said they were assessing a complaint over the alleged sharing of confidential material by the former prince with the late sex offender. The former prince has consistently denied any wrongdoing, and misconduct in public office refers to, quote, serious or willful abuse or neglect of powers relating to the role of public office. So we'll continue to bring you updates on this late breaking story this morning, guys, but for now we'll send it back to you.
Yeah, Chanley, thank you so much for that. I mean, to have the brother of King Charles reportedly under arrest is a shocking development to some, but to others, I'm sure, comes as no surprise given how entangled he has been with this scandal. And it's reported that officers are carrying out searches at addresses in Berkshire and Norfolk. It comes after police said they were reviewing allegations that a woman was trafficked to the UK by Jeffrey Epstein to have a sexual encounter with Mountbatten Windsor.
So they're searching all of his residences now. I highly doubt he would have gotten rid of any incriminating evidence because he's the prince, that he wouldn't think they're actually going to come and arrest him and search all his evidence and stuff. So there's a good chance he didn't get rid of some incriminating evidence. So he's might be screwed for a long time.
Two things come to mind. First, we're going to learn a lot more in the coming days, weeks, and months about how the criminal process works over there in merry old England. But secondarily, there is the question of, does somebody who once had a royal connection and for whom the alleged actions occurred while he was a member of the royal family have any sort of immunity? That's going to definitely be something that is discussed in this now what will amount to be a case, because he has been arrested, multiple reports on that. So we will see from here. But this is definitely one of the biggest dominoes to fall in the overall Jeffrey Epstein situation that we've seen so far.
Absolutely. So we'll certainly be following this one and bring you the latest as we get it.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.
God damn it, you guys, 1 second. God damn it. There we go. Sorry about that. Okay, let's find another one. Let's see here. Watch this guy really quick.
As we begin with major breaking news out of the UK for you this morning. British police have arrested Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, formerly known as Prince Andrew, on suspicion of misconduct in public office. About 2 weeks ago, files released by the US Justice Department indicated the former prince may have shared confidential government information with the late convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Well, this morning we're hearing from the family of Virginia Giuffre. Giuffre accused Andrew, you may remember, of having sex with her when she was underage after being trafficked by Epstein. The family sent CBS News this statement, writing in part, quote, "Today, our broken hearts have been lifted at the news that no one is above the law, not even royalty." It goes on to say, quote, "He was never a prince. For survivors everywhere, Virginia did this."
So if you're just tuning in, Prince Andrew has been arrested. He's the fucking, he was the Prince of England or the UK or some shit, but he has just been arrested. So this is really good. Now we got to start holding the American politicians accountable also, because over there in the UK, they're actually arresting people and like doing investigations. So they got to start doing that in America too. Get all those creeps out of there.
For you. Andrew has denied her allegations. CBS News correspondent Tina Kraus joins us from our London bureau with the latest on this. Tina, good morning. This has all just unfolded in the past few hours. Bring us up to speed on the specifics. What do we know?
Good morning, Errol. Well, the arrest of Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, the younger brother of King Charles III, comes on Andrew's 66th birthday. The former prince, who was stripped of his royal titles late last year over his ties to convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, is now in custody, being questioned on suspicion of misconduct in public office, a serious charge that on conviction carries a life prison sentence. Police arrested him at his home on one of the King's royal estates this morning, a few hours outside of London. They're now carrying out searches at 2 addresses in that area. They're also assessing reports that the former royal sent sensitive trade reports to the billionaire pedophile back in 2010, confidential information about investment opportunities around the world, including Afghanistan and Hong Kong. Multiple police departments across the UK have previously said they were reviewing ties between Andrew and Epstein, including allegations that a woman was trafficked here to the UK by Epstein to have a sexual encounter with the king's brother. Andrew, always denying any wrongdoing in relation to Epstein, says he regrets their friendship. The arrest of a senior member of the royal family is extraordinary. It's considered unprecedented in the modern history of the British monarchy. Errol?
All right, Tina, thank you very much. We now want to discuss this with CBS News royal contributor Amanda Foreman. Amanda, good morning. I only see you when there's crisis with the royal family. And this is something you and I have never discussed before, that the family in the modern era has never seen. So for the monarchy, how stunning a development is this arrest?
Well, it is a stunning development for the public. For the royal family, obviously, they will have known that bad things were about to happen to Andrew, and they have been in damage control now for several weeks. As we know, he moved from his home Royal Lodge to Sandringham very, very quickly indeed, a couple of weeks ago, and has been up north in Sandringham ever since. So this isn't a total surprise.
And if we go back to October, when King Charles III decided to strip Prince Andrew of his royal title and evict him from the royal estate, if I look back at the statement, it includes this quote: "Notwithstanding the fact that he, former Prince Andrew, continues to deny the allegations against him." This is as they explain the move, and they say their majesties wish to make clear their thoughts and...
Yeah, he can keep denying the allegations, but at this point, they're going through all of his hard drives and all of his emails, and they're getting all this information he didn't think they would ever find, probably. So he's probably cooked.
Most sympathies have been and will remain with the victims and survivors of any and all forms of abuse. And that was before the Justice Department here in the US released additional Epstein files and documents that the government there in the UK has now picked up. And there are these allegations of perhaps giving Jeffrey Epstein, the convicted sex offender, investment advice. What do you make of that chapter last year of Andrew being stripped of his royal title, and now this, which seems to be the law catching up with him in some way?
Our next guest has a long history with the royal family. Piers Morgan has met Andrew, knows his ex-wife Fergie and their daughter as well. He joins us now on the phone. Hey, Piers, did you ever think it would come to this?
Do you know, I was beginning to fear it might, but when it actually happens, it is an absolute bombshell. I mean, to put this into context, there has been no member of the royal family arrested in my lifetime. I'm 60 years old. If you have to go back centuries to the last time that a member of the British royal family was arrested. And this is a serious matter. If he is convicted of misconduct in public office, then the vast majority of people that receive that kind of conviction end up with a prison sentence, and the maximum sentence is life imprisonment. And this is the king's brother who remains eighth in line to the throne. So this is, like I say, an absolute bombshell. Not completely surprising, because I think the tone of the King's statement last week clearly opened the door for the police to make a move.
So Piers, just to be clear for us that don't understand, even though his royal titles were taken away, even though he was kicked out of the palace and all the estate, he's not receiving a salary from the government, from the people anymore, he still remains in the line of succession?
Yeah, I know it sounds preposterous, but that is the current state of play. Now, I think it's very fanciful that he would ever accede to the throne under any circumstances, and I think increasingly that is going to be ruled out anyway by the sequence of events. But I think it's important to clarify here that the arrest is not in connection with anything to do with the sex scandal involving Epstein. This is very specifically about his behavior when he was a trade envoy, which is a government appointment. He was acting on behalf of the country for about a decade, in which he traveled around the world as a kind of business envoy for the country. And during that period, we now know from leaks from the Epstein Files, he was giving Epstein, remember, a convicted pedophile, he was giving him the information he was getting, top secret information, as a trade envoy. I mean, this is treacherous, treasonous behavior by a man who is the brother of the king of this country now. So these are very serious allegations. And of course, once there's a police investigation, they've been raiding all his homes now. They'll be taking all his devices, everything they can find that may relate to this. But that might also, of course, uncover more information, more evidence about the other incredibly serious allegations against Andrew, which is that he, of course, committed sex crimes involving Virginia Giuffre and possibly others.
You know, you're saying he's charged with misconduct in public office. You're saying that carries a maximum sentence of life imprisonment. I mean, what kind of top secret info is he sharing with Jeffrey Epstein? And how serious is this? Why would he share secrets about the government with Jeffrey Epstein? This is a statement, Pierce, and I want to get your reaction from the king that we just read earlier, but now that we have you on, I've learned with the deepest concern and news about Andrew Batten Windsor, and suspicion of misconduct in public office. What now follows is the full, fair, and proper process by which this issue is investigated in the appropriate manner and by the appropriate authorities. In this, as I have said before, they have our full and wholehearted support and cooperation. Let me state clearly, the law must take its course. As this process continues, it would not be right for me to comment further on this matter. Meanwhile, my family and I will continue in our duty and service to you all. What do you make of that statement? He's calling his brother by his full name.
Right.
Yeah, it's just astounding. I mean, this is somebody who was Prince Andrew, who was the Queen's favoured son, it was reported constantly. And there are going to be very difficult questions for the Queen. You know, you've got to remember, the Queen stepped in and paid over $12 million, it is reported, to Virginia Giuffre to settle that case she brought against when he was then Prince Andrew. This is the King and Prince William and others. Of course, they've all been around Buckingham Palace, for example, where there are now increasing pieces of evidence emerging of flights where young women have been flown in and brought to the palace Who knew what, where, and when? You know, it's increasingly likely, I would say, that other senior members of the royal family are going to have to also be interviewed by the police. So this might just be the tipping point of a gigantic scandal, which represents, I would argue, an existential threat to the monarchy itself. It is that serious.
Wow. So, Pierce, let's talk about the government. We know about Ambassador Mandelson out. He's linked in the Epstein Files. We know the chief of staff that recommended him to Starmer. He's out. He said it was my fault. I recommended him, so I'll quit. Is Starmer going to stay in office? The prime minister? Is he basically hanging on by a thread?
Yeah, I think he's a political dead man walking. I mean, and it's all centered around what happened with Lord Mandelson. And the short version of that scandal is that Mandelson, who had twice previously lost government jobs, was brought back by Keir Starmer last year to become the UK ambassador to the United States. And it was revealed last week in the Prime Minister's Questions, the weekly public debate you see in the House of Commons between the Prime Minister and the opposition leader. Keir Starmer admitted that before he made that appointment, he had been told that Mandelson had maintained an ongoing friendship and relationship with Epstein post his conviction and post the timeline that he had always said was the timeline, which, like with Andrew, they both pretended that they dropped Epstein after the conviction. They didn't. And we know that from the leaks from the Epstein Files. So I think Starmer is in serious trouble. I would be astonished if he is still Prime Minister in 2 to 3 months. We have the local elections in May. It's very likely that Labour will get an absolute shellacking then, and I think that will be the tipping point for Starmer. So we're seeing some extraordinary things happening in this country. The King's brother arrested, the British Prime Minister very likely to be unseated because of his connection to the Epstein scandal and appointing Mandelson. Mandelson himself, remember, it's now been shown from evidence in these files, was also, when he was the business secretary to a senior member of the British government, he was also giving highly sensitive, classified business information to Epstein. Now, remember, Epstein was a financier. So was he taking this information from Lord Mandelson, a member of the British government at the time, and from Andrew when he was Prince Andrew, a senior member of the royal family? Was he taking the information that they were both giving him, which was top secret, and they're using it to make a ton of money? That will be I'm sure, the paper trail that the police, both here and probably the FBI and other authorities in America, will now be pursuing.
But Piers, why do you think the king is being so forceful here? Because it would appear, at least for some, that he was protected by the queen at one point. But now that the new king is there, he is not supporting him one bit.
I think, the Queen was an elderly lady who believes her son. And I think Andrew lied to his mother. And the reason I say that is if you go back to the now infamous interview that he did with BBC's Newsnight with Emily Maitlis back in 2019, incredible to think it was 7 years ago. But if you go back and watch that interview again, as I did the other night, the number of things that he said in that interview that have now been proven to be lies by the evidential stuff that's coming out of the Epstein Files, I suspect he was spinning the same lines to his mother, and she believed him, that he was totally innocent, he'd never met Virginia Giuffre, etc., etc., etc. We now know only from the last few days that not only was that picture of him with Virginia Giuffre and Ghislaine Maxwell genuine, because Ghislaine Maxwell confirms that in leaked emails, but we also know that from Epstein, from a leaked email a few days ago, that he had sex with Virginia Giuffre because Epstein reveals that in some correspondence. So all the statements that Andrew made in that interview have now been proven to be lies, and I think that he spun the same lies to his mother. But King Charles has seen that these were lies, realizes that Andrew was lying, realized the severity of this scandal and the potential danger to the monarchy itself. Ainsley and I, we've done a lot of stuff together in the UK, of big royal events, from coronations to funerals in the last few years. And previously, we will have all covered things like the death of Princess Diana. These are huge seismic moments in the royal family's history. I have never seen a bigger threat to the future of the monarchy than what is unfurling right now.
That is incredible. Yeah, wow. A lot of people, as you know, Pierce, I love to cover the royal family and loved working with you over there. during some of these events. But not everybody in America is that into the royal family, like you and I might be, right? Sean, for instance, always tells me, you know, we're not British anymore. We started our own country, and so we don't have we don't need royalty. We are just blue-collar people trying to make our way up the ladder. But this story is interesting because it involves Epstein. And so Epstein, it's amazing that Epstein has done so much damage, not only to these young girls and as a convicted pedophile or was before he died, all of the connections that he has, the ripples across this country and now yours. So how do you respond to that when you woke up today, a member of your royal family for the first time ever in your life was arrested?
You know, it reminded me of when it was in the early hours, about 4 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday night into Sunday, back in '97, when I got a call. I was editor of the Daily Mirror newspaper, and I got a call from my news desk to say that the British Foreign Secretary at the time had just confirmed that Princess Diana had died in that car crash in her 30s in a Paris underpass. And I remember this huge sense of shock I had. And I had the same feeling this morning in London when somebody messaged me and said, wow, Andrew's been arrested. Because it's hard to exaggerate this. I mean, there's only been in my lifetime one member of the royal family who's even appeared in court. It was Princess Anne back in 2001, I think it was, when one of her dogs, Dolly, a terrier, attacked 2 young children in Great Windsor Park and bit them. And she was charged under the Dangerous Dogs Act, pled guilty and paid a fine of about $700. That's the only time in my lifetime a royal's been anywhere near a courtroom on a criminal offence. And they weren't, and she wasn't arrested. For the king's brother to be arrested and then to, in my opinion now, start a chain of events rolling which the royal family have no control over. You know, once the police are investigating, seizing evidence, who knows where this may go? We know